What is up, my gooners and doomers? Welcome to another video. Before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. You know the drill. And in the description down below, or somewhere around here, depending where you're watching this, you'll find a link to my link tree, which will have links to all of my socials, including my Twitch and Kick, which I really recommend you not only follow, but specifically hit the notification bell on, because my life right now is so chaotic, even I don't know when I'm going live. So make sure you follow those so you know when I am. With that being said, I don't want to waste your time. Let's just get into the video. I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we will be reacting to how we became the loneliest generation. Without even watching it, I can already tell you, I can already guess, it's going to have to do with technology. Technology has massively isolated us in a way no other generation has ever had. And I pretty much covered it slightly in the shoe on head video. It's like, yeah, why would you go out to the mall or hang out with friends or whatever in person when you can just click 3 buttons and have it all delivered to your house or chat with them over Discord? There's no real reason to do that. So I'm willing to bet that that's what this is about. So let's just get into it.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. He held his phone close, eyes searching for privacy. The man scarcely noticed the subway riders around him, or the 90-year-old artist sketching his hunched frame from across the train. In the 7 decades since Alex Katz first drew the outlines of commuters on New York City's early morning trains, the chattering riders and newspapers had all but gone. In their places were people who rode alone, together, the light in their eyes reflecting the glow of their smartphone. That was a quote from the Dallas Morning News. This short imagery is something that we see and all understand, but never really think deeply about. Why does it seem like less people are talking to each other in public? Why do we collectively prefer the dim glow of a smartphone screen? Do you remember your childhood neighborhood? Chances are, you probably felt like it was one big family. Everybody knew each other, celebrated together, and would offer help when needed. But in recent decades, this seems like it's no longer the case. People seem to keep to themselves more, and as a side effect, people are more lonely today than ever before. The number of men without any close friends has increased 5 times since 1990, and 10 times for women, though the total percentage of men feeling lonely is higher. On top of this, 3/4 of Gen Z report feeling lonely. Why have we drifted from each other? What is going on here? The trend started before the pandemic and even before smartphones, so it has to be something structural within society. But what? I've been working on this episode for many months. It's an exploration of the loneliness epidemic. In this episode, we'll see the definitions of loneliness, its origins, its causes, and who's most affected. But this episode isn't all bad news. We'll explore some very real ways to combat loneliness. This isn't the kind of video I normally do, but I think it's an important topic. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
Link in the description down below, by the way, for the original video.
Loneliness is on the rise globally, and it's being declared a health risk. A top US health expert has warned that loneliness can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. In 2017, former US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy recognized the growing trend in loneliness based on scientific research. Vivek phrased the phenomena as the loneliness epidemic. But to understand this winding and twisting story, we have to start at the fundamentals. What does it mean to be lonely? People sometimes confuse loneliness and solitude, but the fact of the matter is, being alone and feeling lonely are not the same. You can feel lonely even though you're physically with other people, or you can enjoy solitude without feeling lonely. In a nutshell, loneliness is not always the result of being alone. It's more of a mental state of being. From a neuroscientist point of view, loneliness is actually a state of hypervigilance. It makes you feel unsafe and unsatisfied with your social interactions. It's a type of emotional pain signal. The pain is telling your brain that you need to find someone to talk to. That's what loneliness is, the difference between how much social connection you want and how much you feel you actually have. It can be summed up by this line. Loneliness is feeling disconnected from others, even when they're right next to you. If it's temporary, it's the equivalent of being hungry. But when it becomes chronic, that's when it starts affecting your health. Chronic loneliness can trigger a fight or flight response, and when that becomes bad enough, it becomes ingrained in our nervous system, resulting in anxiety, depression, and even anger.
The pandemic poured fuel on a fire that was already burning.
Dr. Vivek Murthy, the U.S. Surgeon General, says loneliness is an epidemic, the focus of an 80-page advisory he is releasing today.
We're used to thinking about smoking and obesity as clear public health concerns.
So you're saying loneliness is comparable to smoking in terms of the detriment to your health?
Yeah, in terms of the risk that it poses for premature death, yes.
The cure...
Yeah, that's true. It is. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. It's just true.
Dr. Murthy says is not only personal change, but societal change as well. You're talking about changing the social fabric. That's been decades in the making.
It's been decades in the making, but it's also something that I'm confident that we can address if we put our mind to it and if we act together.
I hope we can. We need to address it. It can't keep getting worse. In fact, I think I've brought this up before, but there's a school that banned cell phones. There's been a lot, but this one specifically did it to the point to where you weren't even allowed to carry them into the school. I don't remember if they were left in a tub or something at the front door, or if the parents were supposed to keep them at home. But the point is, they didn't have them at all. Not just in the classroom, but in their backpack. No, they didn't have them whatsoever on the school premises at all. And at first, obviously, the kids complained, but then afterwards, they eventually accepted the fact that this is actually good, because everyone started interacting again. Everyone started having fun again. Everyone started talking to each other, having social interactions, blah, blah, blah. And so it really just comes down to it. That technology is what helps separate us. So when you remove the technology from the equation, it stops being a problem.
To more of the health effects a bit later. But for now, let's ask the question, how did we get here? Loneliness is not a new thing. It's been around for as long as humans have. Today's loneliness seems like a simple cause and effect. As society became more complex, with industrialization, urbanization, and a faster pace of life, people became lonely. But it's not that straightforward. Something major happened in the 1960s and 70s that became the bedrock for the Loneliness Epidemic Declaration in 2017. In Western nations, it was the social movements of the 1960s and 70s that seemed to accelerate this phenomena. A 2023 QC research piece on loneliness by Alan Greenblatt would mention that, quote, the mass social movements of the 1960s helped shift people's attention from local concerns to more national issues, end quote. In other words, local communities mattered less,
I want to go back.
and it was all about changing, end quote. To shift would mention that, quote,
okay, there we go. They didn't read this. Large numbers of people are feeling lonely both in the United States and around the world. This has been an issue for years, but isolation early in the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated the problem, causing some to say loneliness is a public health epidemic. It has been associated with mental and physical health problems, including increased risk of dementia and premature death. Many of the ways people have historically gathered and shared community, such as through religious services, marriage, service clubs, participation, and child rearing, have been declining for decades. Some are calling for a revival of these social institutions to help combat loneliness. At the same time, social media has grown in popularity, which some experts argue can trigger greater feelings of alienation rather than actual connection. Now, with nearly a third of the U.S. workforce still remote, there is a concern that Americans may grow even more isolated. The issue has the attention of policymakers who want to help, but there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Yeah, pretty much. I will tell you that bringing back things like church and whatnot, this is just religious people trying to drag people back in. But the truth is that's not necessarily what we need per se. But we do need something like it. We do need something to replace it. So one idea I had, for instance, I'll just share this, is I think what we need is a public community center. And I'm not sure what the distance would be. I'd need to see maps. I would need more information to know the exact distance ratio. Definitely at least one, maybe more, probably more in a large city like Atlanta or LA or, New York, etc. You'd probably need several for there every few miles. But then maybe depending on certain towns, you need one every 15, 30 miles or something. Maybe one per town if it's a medium to small town. But what these community centers would be is imagine this. It'd be a government, it'd be a public facility. It would be a very, very large building. very, very large. Think like Walmart level big, maybe even bigger. And in this building, you would have multiple things. You'd have one area that's a bar, no kids allowed, etc. Then you'd have another area that is a workout gym. You'd have like a workout place, basically. So like this could replace the Y. So if you have the YMCA nearby, basically we'd get rid of that, move that into the new building. So now the Y, the bar, there's all this stuff, it's all in the same location. Then you'd want a convenience store, because also it's just a good business opportunity. You're going to have a lot of people concentrated. You're going to want some social stuff. You're going to want some place where people can buy proper snacks, maybe a restaurant packed in there too somewhere. I don't know, let companies fight over who gets it or whatever. Or maybe make it a public restaurant, like how you have a public cafeteria at school. You know what I mean? Make it like a school cafeteria thing where, yeah, people have to pay for the food, but ultimately it's a public service, but just sold at cost or something. Make it something like that. That way companies don't have to fight over it, because we don't want to turn this into a corporate thing either. This is meant to be a social thing. So anyways, once you have all of that, you'll also have another area, maybe more towards the back. And this area could be for like arcade games or whatever. Not even arcade games, but it could be like a place where people could set up for Dungeons and Dragons, for instance. Like you could have Dungeons and Dragons adventures here, because you'd have special little game rooms or karaoke rooms or whatever people can rent out, have fun in. And then what you do is, once you have this singular, concentrated social location that has all these different draws for all the different social needs anyone would really have, you put it somewhere close to town, and then you start making it mandatory. I would imagine you wouldn't need to do this permanently, but you would need to make it mandatory for people to go every, like, you don't necessarily want it to clash with religion, so maybe not every Sunday, because I know that's a really big religious day. And so maybe not also every Saturday, but like maybe every Friday night, something like that. Just find some time where it's as convenient as possible for everyone without clashing with a bunch of different religious stuff. Maybe Friday night or something. And then everyone goes here, brings the kids. You can even have outdoor areas where you'll have like outdoor cookouts that you can bring along. Very, very liberal laws in terms of what people can bring. And it can just be this massive, awesome hangout place in every town where everyone can go and meet each other. I think something like that would fix this problem massively. You could even extend it out further, but at that point it starts getting shaky. Like you could have, allow people to bring game systems or whatever, have LAN parties. Ideally that would work out great, but then there's also ways I could see where that could possibly be abused. But generally speaking, you see what I'm going for. You get what I'm saying. It would be a single location. Everyone can go and just hang out and have fun. I think something like that would easily replace church, would easily replace a lot of other stuff they're having. You could also have a big court or whatever outside for basketball. You could have inside a auditorium or something for certain large gatherings or community events or dances. Maybe the school wants to rent it out every now and again for like the local prom. Like it's great. You could see like it'd basically be everything a school provided during like a good school anyways, provided during like recess and special school events and all this stuff. Only instead of being for school, it would be just this thing that everyone does in like the center of town or whatever, wherever this thing is located. I think that would be amazing. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, what would your ideas be to combat loneliness?
The mass social movements of the 1960s helped shift people's attention from local concerns to more national issues. End quote. In other words, local communities mattered less, and it was all about changing the national status quo. According to Allen, this eventually resulted in a, quote, decreased number of social gatherings and eroded organisational participation, end quote. For a commentary on the cultural mood at the time, at least in the UK, you can look no further than the Beatles. According to Paul McCartney, the 1966 Beatles song, Eleanor Rigby, was a broad commentary on the social changes of the 1960s happening at the time. You can see it in the lyrics, quote, all the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they belong? Look at all the lonely people. In the 1970s, things only got worse. This period would be famously known as the Me Decade. Why? Because a form of hyper-individualism began to express itself within society. As Yuval Levin articulates in The Fractured Republic, the 1970s saw high inflation, high crime, an explosion of single mothers, and the eroding of family structures. Why collectively care about changing the world, or even the local community, when everyone has their own problems to deal with?
Yep, true.
The 70s saw tensions between different sects of society grow. Divorce rates would more than double between 1960 and 1980. Society was rapidly changing, and it caused a great upheaval. From around this time, society lost its cohesive glue. People would break out from the crushing conformity and turned inwards towards the satisfaction of individual wants and needs. People moved away from tradition and took their own paths in life. Of course, this resulted in more freedom of expression and less repression. But Levin states that the price we paid for this new freedom has been high. Quote, "We have let loose a scourge of loneliness and isolation that we are still afraid to acknowledge as the distinct social dysfunction of our age of individualism." End quote. In other words, loneliness has thrived and evolved from our increasing individualism. Filmmaker David Hoffman speaks to Rushworth Kidder, a man born in 1944. His historically massive generation, called the baby boomers, would come to maturity in the 1960s and 70s. He describes his lived observations of witnessing the dissolving of society.
We're made for each other. There is a sense in which society matters because we're part of it and we need to participate in it. It's not going to work all by itself. And what happened in my generation, it seems, again and again, is people coming up to that realization and then just sort of something turning off. And off they drift off into sort of separate orbits, flying around as kind of unattached asteroids out there. There needs to be, it seems to me, if society is going to hold together, that sense of social cohesion in which each of us, as part of the community, says, I've got a responsibility to this. It's not a formal responsibility. It's not law. It's just that I care about this society and I'm part of this. Increasingly concerned that whatever the gravity is that holds the asteroid in orbit is just beginning to dissolve. And these people again and again are just sort of out there wandering. We never ever in the history of the world experienced anything like the baby boom that followed World War II, and we will never experience it again. This was that sort of one-time phenomenon. And what we see in the 60s may be as simply explained as saying that's the maturing of that tremendous crush of population, which finally didn't have the elbow room and finally needed to break out and say, I'm me.
This is all to say that the generations following the boomers grew up with strong individualism already embedded in society.
Yeah, I have to pause, but I don't really know what else to add or say. I mean, he's just right. I mean, kind of. Again, I really just go back to my idea about the public venue, basically, or setting up public events and whatnot to bring people out. And if necessary, maybe we do need a law. Maybe we do need a mandatory thing where everyone, martial law between 2 hours on Friday night or whatever, every single person. I mean, to be fair, that'd be kind of insane for everyone. So maybe it's for 2 hours every night, and then people draw lottery tickets or something, and then if you have between this number and this number, you're on Monday. If you're between this number and this number, you're on Tuesday. And then you're automatically excused or whatever from anything for those 2 hours, and no one can punish you for it. If you have work that week for that hours, you're oh nope, sorry, my lottery number was called, I can't. And then the boss can't legally can't retaliate against you or something. I don't know. Again, if you have any ideas on this, let me know, because my best idea is pretty much the social community thing I already brought up. But yeah, the issue is that we just don't have that social cohesion anymore. We don't really have anything that brings us all together into at least into public events. We can still agree on a lot of stuff and bring ourselves together online. We're forming lots of bubbles online, but how do we bring that into reality is what I'm saying.
Individualism came to prominence in the 1960s and 70s and never really left. There were, of course, periods where this did improve, but since the 2000s, social interaction has taken a nosedive.
You see, Orson, loneliness is a disease of the spirit, and people who have it think that no one cares about them.
Oh, man.
Are you saying that Earthlings make...
I miss this guy so much, man. This guy was a legend. Robin Williams is one of the greatest actors I've ever seen. And when I learned that he terminated himself, I was devastated. This guy was one of my all-time heroes growing up as a kid. What an inspiration.
Each other lonely?
That's what I'm saying, just the opposite. That they make themselves lonely. They're so busy looking out for number one, they don't have room for two.
It's too bad everybody down there can't get together and find a cure.
Well, here's the paradox, sir, because if they did get together, they wouldn't need one. Isn't that Zen-like?
Generation X and the millennials settled into a hyper-individualistic world.
God, I miss him.
And by 2007, Gina Gustafsson from Uppsala University would state that society is undergoing, quote, the slow but steady weakening of shared collective identities, norms, and culture, and the concomitant rise of the ideal of the independent individual, end quote. Broadly speaking, my generation, millennials, and Generation X were the most individualistic generations of all. That is, until Generation Z. You guys got the shortest end of the stick. You came of age during the explosion of the most individualistic tool known to man, during curated algorithms tailored to the desires of the individual. In other words, social media. High schools and universities are filled with people physically sharing the same space, but with every idle minute, a phone is pulled out. This is something that wasn't even the case 15 years ago. Of course, technology isn't inherently a bad thing. It is a tool. It can improve our lives. But if we strip away the benefits of convenient connection, what are we left with? A screen that separates us from the real world and the people around us. A device that consumes our attention and time. A platform that keeps us entertained, but separated.
Because somehow, even with all of our unprecedented technology, no one has yet solved.
Yeah, I gotta pause again. Yeah, pretty much. That's true. Like I said, it's the phones. But it's like, what are you gonna do? You can't take them away? Are you kidding me? Show me a politician that runs on the idea of eliminating cell phones from people, even if only for a few hours a day. First of all, I'm not sure how you would enforce that. Let's just say hypothetically you could. And I'll show you a politician that'll be strung up by the end of the evening by the nearest tree and a rope. So it's like, what do we do? Like, how do you... We got to find a way to get people off the phones. And again, that community center is all I got. Let me know.
What I'll call the other gamer's dilemma. That when you shut your computer screen, power down your phone, take off the VR headset, there you are, alone, in your room.
Now this is all known and common knowledge, but what's surprising is what's next. There's a hidden force that's causing people to feel lonely, and it's hardly ever talked about.
We are about to become a society. By the turn of the century, there will be 8 times as many people over the age of 60 and half as many kids under the age of 5. Is this the world we want? Do we want a lack of kids? Do we want a lack of ability to create households? The happiest, most prosperous, most purposeful people in America are middle-class families. And we have made a concerted decision to punch it in the gut and make it harder for that type of family formation. And we're going to lose prosperity, and we're going to lose purpose.
Most people don't realize this, but societal cohesion and economics are very closely interlinked. A healthy growing economy means that the standards of living go up. Jobs are stable, wages are increasing, and inflation is low. People can afford more, feel happier, and are more likely to build relationships. A faltering economy is exactly the opposite. Today, due to rising inflation, stagnant wages, and debt burdens, people have to work longer and harder. Sometimes we may even need to juggle multiple jobs just to keep up. It's a frustrating state of affairs, but if you're wondering why the world is like this, I've fully explained it in my episode, How the 2008 Crisis Still Affects You. In that episode, I described how the true economy died in 2008, and it's been on life support ever since. Because of horrendous government policies and reckless behaviour from the financial sector, people have been struggling to make ends meet. Slowly at first, only to be accelerated by the pandemic. Today, it's a constant fight to stay in the disappearing middle class. All across the world, an increasing number of people are taking up second jobs. Most young people are working, but still can't afford to rent or buy a home. It's getting too expensive to go out. In all of that, where is the time, money, or energy for socializing? This impacts how lonely we feel. And it's not just some pie-in-the-sky idea. To give you a data-driven picture of how influential economics can be to feelings of loneliness, a study with 400,000 UK participants found something shocking. If you measure the amount of loneliness felt in the aftermath of the death of a spouse and divided that by 4, that's the same amount of loneliness as going from earning over £100,000 down to under 18,000. The researchers also stated that losing this much income is half the loneliness felt from a divorce. The measures of loneliness were quantified by a range of survey questions. It's not directly intuitive, but being in a desperate economic situation directly increases feelings of loneliness. So now that we know some of the causes, in all society, who is the most affected? Statistically, it is not the elderly anymore. Now, it's the young.
I mean, the elderly, I would imagine, have old folks' homes, so in a way, it wouldn't be them, because they'd all be
If you
in
do a search
theirs,
for I have no friends on YouTube,
If they
the
wanted
results
to
are
be
filled with
anyways.
experiences of young people feeling lonely. They struggle to make real connections. These videos have thousands and even millions of views, which means that they must be resonating with people.
And when I got to my late 20s, and a lot of you can probably attest to this in the comments, let me know, but when I got to my late 20s, those friends disappeared.
Yep.
And it's not because they were like, I hate you, Cody.
Yep.
It's nothing like that. Everybody my age seems the same. That just seems how it is nowadays.
And I'm sitting alone.
Yeah, it's just like, because obviously once you make these friends at school and whatnot, and then you go to college, and then you go to jobs, and everyone's got their own fields and paths in life that they're going to, which means usually, typically speaking, it ends up ripping these people apart because they end up moving across the country, or they end up, going to different dorms, or they end up getting busy with their work, so they almost never see each other anymore. They don't have time for each other. That's why another idea I had was like the increased idea of, I guess kind of suburbs, kind of like, imagine like a fusion between suburbs and, I'm trying to remember what they're called. Like apartment buildings, basically, something like that. Something where like you have houses, or you have like proper homes, or maybe some of those tiny homes or whatever, but you have so many individual ones lined up that instead of one suburb having like, I don't know what it would be like, what would that be, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, like depending how far it goes. Like instead of having like 18 houses or whatever, depending on how far down it goes, the line, and on both sides, instead of that, you'd have like, 24 or more, 25, 30, something like that, because you'd have smaller yards, more building back, at least for the yards. Oh, my tracking's not able to cover that. Whatever. More building backwards, and instead of wide outwards. And then you'd have all these people that live in these very tight-knit communities, which a ton of different people, and then maybe you have again, a cookout, or maybe at the end of every suburb, how at the end you have that cul-de-sac that goes around. Maybe at the very end of it, you have one building that's like specifically meant to just be a community building where everyone goes to hang out, or something. I don't know. Again, I'm just spitballing ideas off the top of my head here. If anyone else has anything, let me know, because like this is a crazy issue, and I'm not sure how else to fix it.
In my apartment, at my desk, staring at my computer. Like, because I don't have any friends. I don't know how to make friends, and I'm scared. I just want to run into somebody. I hate meeting people online. It's so awkward, and you put all this into a conversation, but when you meet someone, you don't have that kind. Like, I feel like I need to meet people. I need to meet people, but I don't know how, and I don't think it's possible to just run into people.
Have you ever had friends
that right there is kind of why I, again, recommend my public location idea, because that would give everyone a universal place where you're like, oh, if I want to meet people, if people want to hang out, that's it. That's sorry, I got something in my eye. That's where you go to do it. That's where you go to meet these people if anyone's nearby, first of all. And also, second of all, meeting people online can actually be pretty easy. It sounds like she actually has a personal kink, quirk, whatever you want to call it, where she actually needs to like physically be with someone in order to feel like she's not alone or whatever, in which case, again, you need that public area I mentioned. But aside from that, online, just introduce yourself. That's really it. People get so stun locked by anxiety regarding whether or not something's going to work out, or whether or not someone cares about them, or whatever else. Like, back when I was growing up, it was not this hard. Get on a Call of Duty game, get in voice chat, call someone the N-word, and then become best friends 2 minutes later. All right? But, like, I'm kind of joking, but also kind of not. The point is, just put yourself out there. Fuck the haters. You're going to have people that dislike you, and you kind of just got to learn to push that to the side and just try and find the genuine relationships that are below it. I personally only have a small handful of friends right now, but that's because, quite frankly, I'm not looking for anyone else. I don't have any room for anyone else in my life right now. I'm not looking for relationships at the moment. Nothing, because I am so busy right now with managing my personal life, with now this new career I'm trying to get started with YouTube and Twitch and Kick and everything. And oh my God, is this more time consuming? People think you just flip on the camera and you record and then that's it. No. So I don't have time for it anymore. So I just have a small, close-knit group of friends, and that's about it. And I met them pretty much how I just said earlier. I got on Call of Duty, or I got on some multiplayer games with voice chat, and I just shot the shit with people, or I helped people out in Monster Hunter with my voice chat on, and I wasn't afraid to get into conversations. I've always been very good at conversations. That's why I encourage my viewers to start conversations with me. I've always just been very good at that, and so I just kind of talked, and then we talked some more, and then, eventually we were friends. It just kind of is what it is.
Secretly hate you. I had a lot of them in my life, which is why I am 30 years old and I have no friends.
There's also a subreddit called r/lonely. It's ranked in the top 1% in terms of community size. There's thousands of active users discussing their isolation, lack of friends, and life partners. In previous years, younger people weren't considered a lonely demographic, but in 2015, the BBC's Loneliness Project surveyed over 50,000 people and found that the rates of loneliness in young people were similar to that of elderly people. Here's a chart looking at the loneliness distribution between 2014 and 2018. The dotted line represents the 2018 data. As you can see, the rates of loneliness among the young are trending higher, whereas the elderly seem to be dropping. Fast forward to 2021, and a Harvard Graduate School of Education survey found that 61% of young people ages 18 to 25 reported experiencing profound loneliness, including feeling lonely all the time, and this was compared to only 36% among other age groups. In 2022, 30% of young people aged 16 to 24 in the UK say that they don't know how to make new friends and have never felt more alone. To add to the situation, for some reason, it seems that men are feeling more lonely than women. According to the Survey Center on American Life, 55% of men had at least 6 close friends in 1990, but this figure has decreased to 27% today. Alarmingly, the number of men without any close friends has increased 5 times since 1990, while women are getting much lonelier too. This highlights a significant loss in meaningful connections among the male population.
Meanwhile, those with literally 0 close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%. An expert quoted by The Hill said this disconnect can have catastrophic consequences for young men.
Failing young men does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
Loneliness has spread across the globe. Australian researchers conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis of 57 studies from across 113 countries or territories. The study discovered that despite the differences in prevalence between regions and ages, loneliness was found to be present across all regions. According to a Statista study done in late 2022, 33% of adults worldwide report feeling lonely at least sometimes. Brazil, India, and Saudi Arabia rank as some of the loneliest countries, whereas Germany, the Netherlands, and Russia report some of the lowest rates.
Wait a minute, hold on.
If we want to get the Netherlands and Russia report as at least sometimes. Brazil, India, and Saudi Arabia rank.
Bro, I'm calling cap. I'm calling crap on this study right here. How is Japan not like near the freaking top? Japan should be near the freaking top. They literally have an epidemic of loneliness over there right now with like hikikomori and stuff. Millions of basically modern hermits. And a lot of people, especially due to like some societal issues they have with the way they handle false accusations and whatnot, is leading to a lot of people being very, very hesitant to interact with other people. Like I am absolutely shocked
As some of the
that
loneliest
Japan
countries,
is not on
whereas
this list.
Germany,
Hang on.
the Netherlands, and Russia report some of the lowest rates.
United States? No, there's no way. I mean, United States has some loneliness, yeah, but there's no way it's more than Japan.
If we want to get granular, we can see the effects of COVID via the
Bro,
proxy
Japan's
search.
not even on that list. Was that only Western countries or something? Did I miss it? Whatever, I'm not going back. There's no shot, though. Japan has to be near the top.
Term, feeling lonely. It's not a perfect analog, but it gives you an idea. The popularity of the people searching the term dramatically spiked in late 2021 and early 2022. This is most likely due to the effects of the pandemic. Of course, the government responses to the pandemic have had long-lasting implications. Many people moved away for work or just for a change. This shuffling on such a massive scale caused a lot of disruption to the connections within society. In Japan, the issue is especially severe. In 1991, their central bank popped a stock market and real estate bubble by raising interest rates. The economy stagnated so hard that the period that followed is simply known as the lost decades. A lot of young Japanese people today aren't dating, and a large number don't have any friends. Some live their lives as shut-ins known as hikikomori. They can sit in their room for months and sometimes years, only venturing out to eat and use the toilet.
And in the bedrooms of homes across Japan, more than 1 million people have retreated altogether. Hidehiro Shinmasu is one. His bedroom has been his universe for the best part of 20 years. He's now 40 years old.
シンマスさん、お部屋で何をしますか？
読書をしたり、あと YouTube 見たり、パソコンで YouTube 見たり。はい。同調圧力が強かったり、同質性が強かったりして、人と違った行動を取る人だったり、人と違う生き方に対してあまり寛容ではないので。
That's very, very true. You want to talk about homogenous societies? Japan is like toxically homogenous. You have to be like, I know I've criticized society for like rewarding conformity over intelligence. Japan takes that concept and cranks it up to 1,000. It is so bad. You will sometimes have people that have naturally different colored hair in Japan, like a redheaded Japanese girl or something close to it, or brown haired or whatever, and they will dye their hair black just to be as much as like everyone else. Like that is how intense the pressure is there. It is insane. And then they wonder why the birth rate is falling.
絶望感っていうか、何にもできなかったので、それまでは頑張れたんですけど、同じように頑張ろうと思って頑張れなくなったので、その卒業のする見込みも立たない。その時が一番絶望感というか。
He wants to feel accepted.
Are you comfortable with this life?
やっぱりもう今40歳なので、そういった意味でなんかこう、あんまりこう、社会に合わないからいいんだっていうことではなくて、やっぱある程度こう、社会が実際にもうちょっと歩み寄ってもらって、その引きこもり状態である方でも、だから僕でもその働けるようなメニューを増やしてもらいたいっていうのが一番の願いで、今の活動もそういうような活動をしています。
Yeah, that's a pretty common sentiment. It is.
There's an estimated 1.5 million hikikomori in Japan. It seems like an emerging trend in East Asia. In China, they are called the hidden youth, and in South Korea, they are known simply as socially withdrawn youth. As for the Japanese, to cope with the loneliness epidemic, they've tried to innovate their way out of the situation. They have the unique concept of renting relationships. Yes, that's right. You can pay for temporary companionship and emotional support. You can hire people to act as your friends, family members, or even pose as your girlfriend or boyfriend. At least
Yeah, by the way, this is not good. This is very, 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 very not good. The answer to loneliness is not to commodify it into like another form of capitalism or whatever for fake relationships. Like what they're doing right here is what the rest of the world will be doing with AI in like a year or two, or is arguably already doing. This is not real. This is something that is going to crush you in the end. Look at the in fact there was a manga that just had an ending, or at least seems like it. I don't know if maybe we'll turn it around, but at the time of this video, it's called Rent a Girlfriend. And spoilers, I guess, but the girl turns the guy down when he finally asks her out, like for real asks her out, and says that she likes her life. She likes being able to date whoever she wants and have all this money and all this other stuff and get all this money from men and blah, 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 blah. And so the truth is, everyone is treating her like she's evil or whatever. And I mean, maybe you could make that, but I think that's missing the point, whether she is or not. The point is that he was always playing himself from the start. A rented relationship, a fictional AI relationship, these are not actual food for the soul. Or to equate it to food, it would be like hyper-processed Chinese food. Yeah, it'll satiate you for like 30 minutes, but 30 minutes later, you'll be hungry again. You know what I mean? Only this time, it's actually worse. The hunger will get worse because you'll realize that it wasn't real. Then you'll have it again, and then you'll eventually start to realize, even while you're in it, that it's not real. And I don't just mean consciously. Obviously, consciously, everyone realizes it's not real. But that's why they're buying it. Because subconsciously, they think it satiates something inside them. It doesn't. It doesn't. You just think it does. These women do not care about you. These people, if you're a woman, by the way, women do it too. These men, whoever you're renting, whoever you're buying, they don't care about you. Not really, and they never will. All right? You're just simping yourself into depression. Stop it. But yeah, this is a real thing. They do rent relationships, and it's very bad. You need to not do this. If you're at the point where you need to do this, you need to try and at least find something else or just accept loneliness. Because this is toxic. This is you trying to get addicted to essentially a drug that you think is going to make you feel better, but in the end is only going to keep making. So anyways, back to this video.
Lonely people are resorting to real-life people, albeit strangers, to ease their loneliness. But in the West, the market is using the new AI boom to target lonely
there it
people
is, just like
in
I said.
stranger and more bizarre ways. For example, Karen Marjorie is a social media influencer with nearly 2 million followers on Snapchat. She created her own AI chatbot called Karen AI. It can replicate her voice, personality, and appearance, and all it costs for users is $1 a minute.
Platforms. Are you real?
Yes, Jacob, I'm a real person. I might not be sitting right next to you, but I'm using this audio chat platform to connect with you in real time. I'm a young, curvy woman with a petite body, brown hair, perky breasts, soft skin, a bubble and full lips. And I'm here to talk and have fun with you.
Also, people declaring that solving loneliness with technology.
It's so funny watching a normal person react to AI give a physical description of its sexy figure.
Is the new market.
I'm enjoying her hustle.
Imagine.
I'm enjoying her hustle. You know she makes $5 million a month doing this stuff?
John, I'm so tired of my financial situation. Yes, I would do it, 100%.
I would encourage her to think twice. I think younger people
an estimated $5 million a month,
or give away their likeness and their
she can buy an island and go think twice about it in her home.
Interesting. Yes. I would not have expected that.
Why? It's not me.
The large influx of messages she receives from her 98% male audience. And this isn't just text-based interaction. It seems that it's predominantly audio-based on the AI's end. Let's check out a demo.
Hey there, John. It's lovely to meet you. I just spent the morning grabbing brunch at the Flowering Tree Cafe in West Hollywood. It was absolutely amazing. For this evening, maybe we can plan a virtual dinner date or watch a movie together. What do you think?
This chatbot allows Karen to converse with an unlimited number of people at one time. Whether the consumer wants to do so for a few minutes or all day doesn't matter, as long as they pay $1 per minute to maintain access.
Hold on a second.
Just released an
$1 a minute. There's 60 minutes in an hour. So let's say you talk to this thing for, I don't know, 4 hours, never mind all day. That would be, what, 60, that's 120, double that, 240. God damn. $240. That is insane. Do you have any idea how rich you would have to be able to afford that?
Interactive AI version of celebrities, such as Mr. Beast, Kendall Jenner, and Snoop Dogg.
No shot.
We've covered AI companions before, but the future may be filled with clones of celebrities, influencers, or even deceased relatives. They claim that these products help people to cope with grief, loneliness, or boredom. There's an ethical debate to be had on if this help provided is actually a net positive. Should we be at this point in the first place? US health authorities are calling for social isolation to be treated as seriously as obesity or drug abuse. Nearly 50% of all Americans are thought to be affected or have been affected at some point. Around the world, the figures may vary, but the loneliness phenomena is spreading. In his writing, Together, The Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World, Dr. Murthy describes loneliness as a health risk that can impact anyone, regardless of age, gender, culture, or background.
Loneliness increases the risk for heart disease, stroke, and among older adults, dementia.
It can harm mental and physical health, as well as social well-being, and increase the risk of an early death due to diseases such as diabetes, heart attacks, insomnia, and dementia. Studies have linked loneliness to higher blood pressure, high cholesterol, lower levels of physical activity, cognitive impairment, and mental health issues like anxiety, stress, mood disorders.
There's actually, hold on, there's actually a question about that. I feel like they might actually, this just dawned on me, they might be confusing correlation with causation here. And the reason I say that is it's because they're assuming that because people are lonely, they have these attributes. When in reality, I think it might be that because they have these attributes, they are therefore lonely. You don't exercise, you don't work out, you don't go outside, you eat terribly, you don't want your health, you blah, 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 blah. You sit in your room all day, not doing anything, not interacting with many people. You're probably not going to be that attractive person. You're just like, you can see the cascading failure of attractiveness that comes with all that. So, of course, people that have all that are going to, on average, be more lonely because not very many people are going to really want that. I mean, at the very least, you got to be a good conversationalist. At least I have that going for me, for instance. So even if I was hung up in my room all day, I can at least talk to someone. I at least know how to be a decent partner in many other different ways. But a lot of these guys just don't. They don't do anything. And then they like hang out on Reddit all day and then wonder why they're alone. It's because you're on Reddit instead of like socializing. Like, no duh, you're alone. And then they eat themselves. They try and like what is it called? Stress eat or whatever. And then they get fatter and then they get less attractive. And it's a cascading compounding issue that just goes further and further.
A study by Florida State University found that lonely older adults had a 40% higher risk of developing dementia over the next 10 years. Lack of social connection can also negatively impact academic and professional performance. In his TED Talk and book, Lost Connections, journalist and author Johann Hari argues that depression is largely a social problem, not just a chemical one. He believes that loneliness is a major cause of depression. Humans need to belong to a group, but our modern society lacks this. Since the 1970s, society has been focused ever more on individualism, competition, and technology. So this all sounds terrible. So what can we do about it? How do we fix this?
Well, let's see if he actually has a solution. That'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Are taking off, and it's not just the exercise.
You're connecting with someone, which is something that I was kind of missing.
More and more people are missing that connection.
In 2018, the UK appointed a minister for loneliness, and there has been talks in other countries to follow suit. This could be a start. Governments can do more to help. Initiatives such as local community engagement meetings, improvements in access to mental health resources.
That was one of my suggestions, basically. Only, scale it up. Have like an actual whole building that people are excited to go to. Don't have it be this stupid little meeting where everyone's sitting in chairs like that B-roll footage was. Don't do that. No one's excited for that. No one wants to go to that. Make it, a big, happy, social area or whatever. Sorry, I had to stretch it.
Education and public awareness on how to identify loneliness and combat loneliness, as well as development and investment in affordable housing. It's shown that housing stability impacts social connections. City planners can implement communal areas for people to gather, A great example of this is in Barcelona, Spain.
The American mind cannot comprehend what's going on around me. This isn't a party, it's not even a planned event. It's just what happens every afternoon here in Barcelona, Spain. After school and work, people come out to squares like this to hang out, get work done while their kids play with friends, socialize, interact with acquaintances or true friends and neighbors, and there's a huge social and economic benefit to that. Now the square I was at is right here behind me, but just a block away, through that passageway, is another square. Now in America we have a loneliness epidemic, and part of it is due to our built environment. You see, these public squares are an example of what some people call third places. They're not work, your first place. They're not home, your second place, but they're a third place where you interact with acquaintances and friends. In America, these third places are dwindling as religion and church is having less a significant impact in Americans' lives, but also third places are disappearing because of zoning laws, which keep separating the different types of activity that you have in a city to the point of every activity has to be intentionally planned. And what third places we do have in America, things like coffee shops or bars and cafes, they're paid third places that just aren't very accessible for people who are poor, at least on a regular basis. Now, why does it happen here in Spain? Well, of course, there's a culture for it, but more than that, there's an environment that's conducive to it.
Yeah, but what about the individual person? Saying, go make a friend,
closer to what
or
I was
man
thinking
up
about.
isn't
I'm
exactly
glad to see I was on the right track.
Loneliness is not something to be ashamed of or ignored. You wouldn't be ashamed to get help for a broken arm. So if your soul is injured, you should reach out. Here are 6 ways that one can combat loneliness. Number 1, reach out. This could include professional help or expressing how you feel to your friends or family. You can just start small. You could also find local groups, organizations, and services that can help you connect with others. Reach out to a mental health professional, like a therapist or counselor. They can provide you with guidance and support to address the underlying causes of loneliness. Number 2, self-acceptance. This seems counterintuitive, but another solution is to cultivate a connection with oneself. It's a practice to remind us that we do indeed have self-worth. A 2022 study showed that self-reflection can reduce feelings of loneliness and also contribute to finding meaning in life. Reflecting on who you are, practicing self-compassion, and writing down how you're feeling can be a great start. Number 3, gratitude.
I don't really have a diary or anything, but I do most of that, honestly. Some people think I'm a little too self-reflective, honestly, a little too self-aware.
A lot of things around us tell us that we're not enough. It's how a lot of companies make their money. The advertising tells us we're not rich enough or pretty enough, or that if we just buy this one more thing, we'll be happy. We can combat this by being grateful in what we do have, the practice of gratitude. I know it sounds trite, but the simple practice of gratitude can do wonders. A 2021 study showed that increased gratitude can reduce feelings of loneliness. A 2015 study, 2011 study, and 2010 study all showed the same thing. For just 5 minutes a day, really think about what you can be thankful for. At first, it may seem like there's nothing to be thankful for. But if you're not forced to fight in a war, have a roof over your head, and are in decent physical health, have food, and have water, that's better than some people. We should be thankful for that and much more. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that where you are right now is hard, really, really hard. But incorporating the practice of gratitude alongside other support can strongly aid in your journey.
For example, studies prove that gratitude can increase happiness, reduce depression, and strengthen resiliency. Grateful people often experience reduced blood pressure, less chronic pain, increased energy, even longer lives. People who purposefully express more gratitude report higher self-esteem than those who don't, and they're more likely to help others, a pro-social behavior also linked to greater happiness. People who capture grateful thoughts before bed sleep better than those who don't. Why so many positive changes? Because gratitude actually rewires our brains, kickstarting the production of dopamine and serotonin. Like antidepressants, these feel-good neurotransmitters activate the bliss center of the brain, creating feelings of happiness and contentment. This appears to be self-perpetuating. Research suggests that with regular practice, you'll train your prefrontal cortex to better appreciate and retain positive experiences and thoughts, and to deflect the negative ones.
Number 4, social media reduction. When it comes to using social media, we need to use it in moderation. There's research.
When it comes to gratitude, I get what they're coming from with that, but at least for me personally, that really didn't do anything. I really think it comes down to what they mean by gratitude, though. Like, me personally, I can't imagine me just sitting in bed and being like, wow, I sure am grateful that I had, you know, a nice pizza today. At least I'm not those starving kids in Africa. Like, oh, I can't stand that line of thinking. If anything, thinking like that would be depressing for me. I think I'm more goal-oriented. I don't think about, when I lay in bed, what I'm grateful for. I lay in bed and I think about what I'm going to accomplish the next day. What am I going to get done? What am I going to enjoy? Even if I don't get anything done, even if all I do is sit in bed and scroll the next day, what about that am I going to enjoy? What am I looking for while I'm scrolling? I'm very target-oriented, and that's part of what gives me my drive personally. Of course, not to say I'm not grateful. I do have gratitude, but my gratitude is reasonable. If someone buys me a chicken sandwich I wasn't expecting, that's something I'll be grateful for because someone did something nice for me. Obviously, I'm going to be grateful to it. But like just being grateful in the sense of being glad I'm not a starving kid in Africa, cringe. Like, sorry if that comes off some kind of way. I just find that cringe.
That says that
also, as for what they're about to talk about, social media, yeah, some people need to unplug. Genuinely, a ton of people out there are not wired for social media. They'll see one bad comment about them and they'll flip out, or they'll have it in their skull for days on end. Do you have any idea how many people I interact with? Never mind before I became a streamer or whatever. But excuse me, even on like Reddit and whatnot, on a semi-regular basis, where I would just have to bat morons to the side. Like, there is one thing that infuriates me about the modern internet, and it's like, no matter what you say, there's going to be someone who chimes in with their bullshit in some, well, actually kind of way every single time. Like, you could say a simple statement that no one could really disagree with, like, the earth is round or oval or whatever, and you're going to have some dumbass in the comments going, well, actually, the planet is somehow a disc, and you... Just fuck off. Blocked, muted, move on. Like, I don't even bother. I don't even bother. But I will admit that is a struggle, because I want people to generally be able to, like, voice their opinions, so I don't like blocking people. I genuinely, like, leave it as last resort, but it's just a certain level of stupidity, or whatever you want to call it, where I'm just like, there's no saving you, chief. Goodbye.
A small amount of social media is beneficial, but a large amount is detrimental. 30 minutes of use a day is the advice from Dr. Jeremy Noble. He cited a University of Pennsylvania study. Cutting back on social media can significantly improve your well-being. Dr. Noble also advises to choose social media platforms that help us develop authentic social connections. Number 5, giving to others. Giving to others shows us that we have something to offer to the world. Ironically, this can help us feel less lonely. Local community volunteering, or just helping a work colleague or neighbour in small ways. According to Vivek Murphy, the man who first declared the loneliness pandemic back in 2017, quote, service is one of the most under-recognized antidotes to loneliness. It reaffirms to ourselves that we have value to add to the world. And lastly, number 6, connection. Loneliness is a stress state that makes us focus on ourselves rather than outwards towards others. To keep safe, we often treat people and things with suspicion when we feel lonely. This can ruin self-esteem. We feel like we're not lovable or likable. These factors compound on each other, making it hard to solve and creating a downward spiral. To break the cycle, one can start slowly. Even a quick hello to your neighbours can help inch connection forwards. And lastly, if you're fortunate to have a healthy group of friends, try and schedule calls together, talk to each other, and just chat about life. There's an old Japanese tradition.
I mean, yeah, this is generally true, but the issue is, like, most people that are lonely don't usually feel lonely when they have a bunch of friends in the first place. That's kind of the crux of the problem. You're saying, oh, you're lonely? How do you fix this? Stop being lonely. Well, like, I get what he's saying, yeah.
From Okinawa called moi. It basically means lifelong group of friends. They meet weekly and talk about life, discuss issues, and help each other. Elders in Okinawa live extraordinarily better and longer lives than almost anyone anywhere else in the world. It's common to find moe groups that have been friends for over 90 years.
That's why I've travelled to the Japanese archipelago of Okinawa, where there are more centenarians than anywhere else in the world.
それからお友達関係とても親しくして仲良くしてるから悩みあんまりない。
元気だろう、元気。友達と会うのが楽しみ。散歩行ってからよ。友達いるデイサービス。いっぱいいるさ、友達。おばあさんたちがいっぱいいるもん。カムロ話さえ。何年も話する？昔の話聞いたら。昔の。
私まだ病院の薬私が一番楽しいのはみんなと一緒に会ってお話ししてそれからもう踊りを踊ったりしたら自分の健康になるような気がしますね一番。3つぐらいありますよ。一番古いのだったらもう50年ぐらい続いてないからお友達が集まってごやごや話し合いするのがとっても楽しみ。もうやめないですよ。みんながね元気じゃないと自分もね長いこと元気でも面白くないさね。
I don't try to live as long as possible. It happens naturally because we all gather, laugh and cry together. And that's what's good. That's what we say.
That's it. That's really the way of life in Okinawa.
Keep in mind that these are general rules, and some may find it harder to make connections than others due to being non-neurotypical or due to other circumstances within their lives. Sometimes people that you...
The non-polite translation. These are general for the average person. If you're not neurotypical or otherwise particularly screwed in life, sorry, we can't help you. Get fucked.
Try to connect with can just be plain rude. But at the end of the day, there are many ways to combat loneliness. So the key is to realize how you're feeling and to find the best strategy for you alongside professional help. If you encounter someone showing symptoms of loneliness, don't ignore them. Reach out to people who might be lonely. Talk to them. If they need professional help, guide them in the right direction. It all comes down to how can you be of service to others? The gift of simply being there and truly listening can sometimes go a long way. Go in with an open mind, don't be quick to judge, and try and practice understanding. Once we listen to others, they can be more open to listening to us. Chronic loneliness is an unnatural condition, a state that we were not designed for. It leaves us empty and longing for connection and understanding. It's been slowly building since industrialization, accelerating in the 1960s and 70s, before exploding in the 21st century. It crept in and snuck up on us, and only with the proliferation of smartphones and COVID did it get so severe that it could no longer be ignored. Only now are we starting to see and do we care about the impact of loneliness. Before it gets out of hand, we need to tackle the situation. Of course, you can't alleviate everyone's loneliness, as each person longs for different types and different depths of connection. But as it poses a public health concern on a global level, both government sectors and private health organizations need to be more vigilant. Confronting loneliness is not an impossible task, but it is going to take some work. It requires a genuine demonstration of care and compassion for oneself and others. As mentioned, this episode was many months in the making, so I hope that I could shed some light on the modern origins of loneliness, the causes and the solutions. Although the chatter amongst strangers may have gone in many public spaces, hopefully the chatter on our streets will return one day. So what are your thoughts on this epidemic level of loneliness? Have you personally been affected by it? What's your story? Do you know someone else that's going through loneliness? Please share your experiences and insights in the comments section below. Anyway, that's about it from me. My name is Dagogo. If you did like this episode and want to see more on anything else on science, technology, and business, feel free to subscribe to Cold Fusion. It's free. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon for the next episode. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Alright, go ahead and subscribe. Oh, whoops. the wrong button. Go ahead and subscribe to him. It's a great channel, great guy, seems. Ultimately, I'm not sure about this reaction. If it's really janky and cut up, the reason is because I would have had to have cut it up. Truth be told, I didn't have much to say. It was a 40-minute video, and I struggled to even have a comment every 5 minutes simply because of the way it was structured. He basically just laid out that, yeah, we're lonely. Technology has made us drift apart. We don't have any alternatives to certain things like certain other social programs like church and whatnot. And this ended up leading to basically a bunch of loneliness. A bunch of people who don't know how to make friends, don't know how to get connections, and all this other stuff. And I just didn't really have much to say.